Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
The Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family or business can benefit from current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. But before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest and repeat offender on Ron Siegel Radio. Paul Peters is with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Ron. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
Glad to have you with us. Let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money, I personally work with you. If you ever have any questions, call me anytime, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, of course, we are celebrating today. It's National Ginger Snap Day. Okay, all I can think of...
It is what it is.
Isn't that a holiday type thing? But... I guess based on, since we had, earlier this week, there was no food on there to celebrate. Today we got Ginger Snap. Today's also, now here's an interesting one, U.S. Postage Stamp Day. That's one that's increasing a lot. Oh, wait a second. I forgot to get the, increasing like stamps. Yeah. Postal Worker Day. Are we celebrating that one, Josh? Not going to celebrate the postal workers? Okay, my sister-in-law won't be watching today anyway, so that's okay. And here's one of my favorites, although I'm not very creative. Josh is our creative expert here. National Creative Ice Cream Flavors Day. What would be a creative ice cream flavor? I'm just going to throw it out there. I just go with the straight peanut butter and chocolate. That's a good one. Rocky Road would be fine if you wanted to go there as well, but I'm a simple guy. Creative ice creams. I guess that's Cold Stone or something like that, where you get to go kind of crazy, although they didn't pay for it, so you don't get to say it's Cold Stone. Let's see what the markets are doing today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 465 points. S&P is down 982. The NASDAQ is down 205. That's kind of interesting when you see the NASDAQ down 205 and the Dow Jones up 470. I wonder what's going on there. We are going to watch the oil is up 43 cents a barrel, 65.54 a barrel. Do we even want to look? Now, remember, today's data is still a little bit on the older side. So it's from yesterday. It's about as new as we have available. So California, our Gavin tax is going in. Gavin's gas tax is going to go into effect today. So when we look at what the gas prices are tomorrow, it's going to be ugly. $3.17 is the average for a gallon of gasoline across the country. $4.58 right here in the formerly Golden State, where we used to be able to say we were a Golden State. Now it's Brown State with high taxes. I don't even want to talk to Paul about this one. This is scary. So we're looking here in California at $4.58. Paul's sitting over there in Texas. Now, I don't know what it is there in Frisco, but we're looking at $2.75 a gallon is the average for the state of Texas. Is that about what you're paying, Paul?
Yeah. I saw a gas station yesterday about 269. So it is interesting. I love to go when I travel around. Is you look at some of the gas stations will actually have the tax, so you can really see what you're paying. A lot of them don't because they don't want people to know how much they're being taxed. But that's a big reason why the variance in the gas prices, because of the taxes per state. So
yeah, California, I think we're at 28% of the price of a gallon of gasoline now. It goes to taxes. And, in California, we find ways to tax people, and we don't even call it a tax. So the voters voted for that the state legislature couldn't increase taxes at all without a vote of the people. So we didn't get a tax increase on gases. It's a fee. So instead of calling it a tax, they call it a fee. So now, as of today, and obviously I haven't gone to get gasoline today, gas prices are going up 65 cents a gallon for another Gavin gas tax. So even who's in one of the highest 10 price states in the country for gasoline is $1.50 a gallon cheaper than we are in California. Unbelievable. But hey, you know something? You get what you vote for. So we're watching right now, and unfortunately, what's going on right now in California. Now, in America, I understand that the July 4th weekend, they're going to be having a lot of fireworks shows and parties and picnics. In California, I guess I'm starting to hear, I heard on the news this morning, they're canceling a lot of the events because they're worried about what's going on around the state. They're worried about ICE raids. Well, you know something? It's one of those things where you do the crime, you do the time. And it would be nice if we'd get our politicians to say, you know something? It is what it is, right? I mean, people take risk all the time. Some of us take risks in business. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. Some people took risks to come into the country the right way, the legal way. That takes time. It takes money. There are people that decided, okay, we're going to do it our way, and we're going to hire the cartels and the coyotes and risk coming in. And now it's a shame because some of those folks are having their lives disrupted, but they might have known that it could happen at some point in time. And, I've known some folks that did that. I feel for them. I can understand that they came here to do better for their family. And that's what a lot of people do. But you got to do it the right way or take the risk. And now you listen to the politicians saying that the ICE agents are to blame. Well, are they saying in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that the firefighters that were killed on Sunday, are they to blame too? I don't think so. I just look at this and say it's, we've gotten out of hand with saying, that you want to glorify people that break the law and put a stigmatism on people that are enforcing the law. Hello, CNN. Thankfully, not many people watch CNN anymore. And it's ironic, though, because CNN, I know that their audience count is going down. I know that their viewership diminishing. But CNN International is still a big, big player. And does it really represent the United States very well? I submit that there's some question marks there, and it'd be fascinating to see if at some point in the not too distant future that maybe the administration starts saying, we want we want to bring the reporters who are not commentators into the White House briefing room. See, someone like me couldn't go in there because I've got an opinion on everything. It's like, don't sit on a fence. It hurts. Everyone's got a rear end. Everyone has one. They all stink, right? But a reporter, they're supposed to go and report the news, not try and be the news. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, something near and dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about individuals with disabilities, 200 reasons to hire a real estate agent. Your Credit Matters, Borrow Smart, Home Select, all that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990. 800-306-1990, RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few. Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. I will throw out, because I do like to see the comments that come in from folks. And I saw there was one here. Sergio, I appreciate your comment. And you know, Sergio, I've got this philosophy, I've got this theory that there should be a requirement, a mandate. And I don't care whether it's on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, any of them. If you're reporting the news, you should have to have a banner along the bottom saying news report. If you're a commentator like me, like Sean Hannity, like any of the others, they should say this is commentary. It's not news. So that way people know when they're getting news and when they're not getting news. But in any event, the Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And every day at this time, OBMMI. They provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual lock rates across 35% of all mortgage transactions. Nationwide, they do not tell us points paid, points received, or the APR. They only tell us the number you need to put in your mortgage calculator to find out what your principal and interest payment will be. If you don't have a mortgage calculator, shame on you. Get it for free, rsrlinks.com/mobile app, rsrlinks.com/mobile app. Rates yesterday, mixed bag. Conventional 30-year fix, 6.668. That was down. Jumbo 30-year fix, 6.779. That was down. FHA 30-year fix, 6.467. That was up. VA 30-year fix, 6.288. That was down. And the USDA, generally rural areas, generally no down payment. That one there, the USDA, that was up 6.455. And we put out our market commentary all the time. We're coming up with a new community that we're going to have available for you where you can actually see our commentary on a regular basis. Let's see what the markets are telling us today. S&P is now up 2.09. We've got the 10-year Treasury. The 10-year Treasury is up 4 basis points. That's on the yield. And we've got the mortgage-backed security is down 22 basis points. Think it has to do with Jerome Powell over there talking about maybe lowering interest rates. The market didn't like it last time. Do you think they're going to like it this time? We'll see. But Fed Chair Powell spoke this morning and said that ignoring tariffs, inflation is behaving as they had expected and hoped. But he does expect higher inflation readings over the summer. When asked about a July 30th rate cut, he did not take it off the table. You know my feeling about Jerome Powell.
Idiot.
Yeah, but he does expect higher inflation readings over the summer. When asked about a July 30th cut, again, didn't take it off the table. Sounds like there is a possibility of a cut, but it's going to depend on Thursday's BLS report, that jobs report that always comes out on the first Friday of the month, but since it's a holiday, they're going to do it on Thursday, and it's always wrong. They'll also be looking at the next CPI inflation reading that comes out later this month. But we know there's some challenges in jobs, regardless of what the Bureau of Labor Statistics says in their BS report. JOLTS data showed that job openings rose 374,000 to 7.769 million, which was 469,000 higher than estimates. Interestingly, while the number of openings increased, The hiring rate fell from 3.5 to 3.4, matches the lowest level since 2013 when we exclude COVID. Quits rate rose from 2% to 2.1%, but is still near some of the lowest levels since 2016 when removing COVID. This shows weakness in the labor market, as a lower quit rate means less people feel confident about getting a new job, less poaching and hiring from other companies. Looking at the sectors of job openings, professional and business services, which was the biggest driver of openings in the previous report, showed a decline of 28,000. Healthcare and social assistance added 60,000 job openings, but that sector is not sensitive to what's happening in the economy, and those jobs will be needed regardless. Leisure and hospitality openings rose 279,000, breaking a 3-month negative trend. Home price index or insights, Cotality reported that home prices rose 0.3% in May, which was lower than the 0.8% they forecasted last month, but still positive. On a year-over-year basis, home prices are up 1.8%, down from 2.2% in the previous report. Cotality forecasts that home values will rise 0.8% in June, 4.2% over the next 12 months, which was a very deceleration from 4.3 in the previous report. But I mean, still, prices are going up no matter what people want to tell you. Make sure you quantify the more than 4% expected appreciation is still a good number. If home value, are you listening, Diana Olick? I know you get it wrong every time. If home values were to rise by 4% over the next year, and one purchased a $500,000 home today, that's $20,000 in appreciation over that period. Apartment List measures new rent prices, show that rents rose 0.2% in June, but that is about half of the increase we normally see during this time. Rents are down 0.7% year over year. The main reason for slower increases is vacancy rates. Multifamily vacancy rates are at 7%, an all-time high. The 0.7% year-over-year decrease is something that has been very slowly helping the shelter. ISM Manufacturing Index was reported at 49, just above estimates of 48.8. Still in contraction. Are you listening, Jerome? The employment component on a week we get the ADP and BLS jobs report fell to 45 and was 2 points beneath expectations. New orders fell to 46.4 with both the employment component and new orders at the lowest level since March. Prices paid rose slightly to 69.7, higher than the estimates of 69, and showed some signs of inflation in the manufacturing sector. That is the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial when you're ready for that next home loan. Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. So today we've got to discover our purpose in a confusing world of choices. Boy, and Paul Peters is coming to us from Texas. Could you imagine what he'd have to talk about if he was in California?
Well, the confusion runs rampant in some states in the U.S., that's for sure.
Yeah. So are you able to help? Is California beyond help, or what do you think?
No, I mean, no one or no state is beyond help. I think things begin to reach that boiling point, and then you begin to see transformation and change within individually within a state. When people get fed up enough, they're going to change, and we'll have to see what that looks like, because you've got a lot of people in division in regards to what's going on in California right now.
Ironically enough, when you say that people get fed up and they look to change, the question is, are they changing in the right way, New York? Right? I mean, look what's happening in the mayor race there. So give us a little bit of your background, Paul, because you've got your history and your background is quite amazing.
Yeah. I'll start with from the beginning, but I grew up youngest of 6 in Southern Illinois, raised by a single mom. My dad spent a good amount of time in prison. And after he got out of prison, I didn't really know him. So I really kind of grew up without a father. I challenge people, when you go through a challenging childhood, that will define you one way or the other. And it really comes down to the choices. And so part of the not having a father ended up in alcohol, drugs, and different things. Made an attempt on my life at the early 20s and from that point, when that was unsuccessful, I was able to turn my life around. I got into the military. I started working in the field that I'm currently working in. Started my company, about 15 years ago. Best-selling author, a TV show host. So it's interesting how the challenges we grow up in, which is why, kind of getting back to your question about California. If we have those challenges, we make the right choices, because it really comes down to a choice. Are we going to choose to do the right thing, or are we going to choose to do the wrong thing? And I thought it was very interesting. You mentioned commentary versus reporting. Commentary is often just telling your opinion. And the key for successful reporting is you're just reporting the truth. Problem is, a lot of the reporters are very influential, already come with a preset agenda trying to influence the audiences. And that's when it gets dangerous. And I think we've got to make sure, one, are we being people of integrity, especially if it's reported, because you've got a responsibility to report the news. Let us as an audience determine how we're going to view it. So.
Yeah, that's a good point there, because there are so many ways. And right now we're so divided as a country. It's crazy. How did you decide that the military was going to be the path for you, after the drugs and alcohol and trying to take your life? How did the military, how'd that come about?
Well, one of the things about the military was very challenging. I was in there for 8 years as a chemical officer, honorably discharged. I didn't have a great dad growing up, so I didn't have the discipline needed. And I knew I needed that. I needed a good, strong male role model to be able to teach me the things that I needed to be a good leader. And ultimately, that, which was done many years ago in regards to the military, I ended up being a pretty good leader. I have run a company, about 300 employees. We're in the state of North Carolina. So, those things, the choices we make early on, even though we don't understand how they're going to play out, often do play out to make us the best person we're supposed to be. So
when we come back, I want to chat with you a little bit about your company and the world now, how we can actually, you're in Texas, company in North Carolina, and helping people all over through the TV. And it's a global mobile planet, I guess. So I guess we can do things all over. We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. We're also going to chat about 200 reasons to hire an agent. No, I'm not going to give you all of them. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, it's 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, shame on you. But the replay is available. Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few. Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. 200 reasons to hire an agent. Did you know there are over 200 steps in a typical real estate transaction? That's a lot to manage, especially in a market where buyer expectations are changing so quickly. And if you're thinking about selling without an agent and taking all of this on solo, let's talk first, because everything matters more today, from pricing to marketing to negotiation, especially knowing how to handle the fine print without making costly mistakes. I tell you all the time, strategy beats rate always. Well, if you don't have the right strategy in buying, if you don't have the right team working with you, you can miss out on a lot. We're just going to roll out a new program from our lending team. How'd you like to have potentially the ability of getting 1% of your loan amount back to buy furniture when you go to buy your new house? A lot of people put everything they have into the new house. New program, potentially you can get up to 1% of the loan amount back to go and buy new furniture, help you with moving expenses. That's called strategy. So from pricing to marketing to negotiation, especially how to handle the fine print without making costly mistakes, agents and your team of household board of directors does that. I've done it for sellers in all kinds of shifting markets. I've helped them. We've told you about this before. When you look at maximizing your sales price, rsrlinks.com/salesmax, rsrlinks.com/salesmax, how you maximize the sales price of your property. Want to help on the affordability? rsrlinks.com/buydown, rsrlinks.com/buydown. You do not have to figure this out alone. When you're ready, I got your back. I can explain the process and what's changing. So let's chat. That's why I am a certified liability advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management. That is the real-time real estate segment brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Continuing our conversation this morning, Paul Peters is coming to us from the great state of Texas in the United States of America. We're here in Calizuela, so things are a little more challenging here. But Paul, tell us a little bit about your company, because I've had folks on my show that have done some of the things that you're doing. And not that I have anything against what you're doing, but it's an unfortunate situation that we have such a need for it in our country.
Yeah.
Right. Tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, I started a company called Covenant Case Management Services back in 2010. And the name of the company, Covenant, really came out of scripture, because it was very important in the relationships that I have with my families. And these are families who have children and adults with disabilities. I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was committed, covenant, a promise, to stay there and really make sure that the needs that they have for their children are met. And so, the byproduct of that is I get invited to weddings and birthdays, and it's really about a relationship. And so I have a child with disability. He has autism. He's 29 years old. And so I've really committed, he was adopted, by the way, and I'm really committed to coming alongside and partnering with these families, because they have historically had difficulties getting the services they need for their adult children or children. And you and I had talked about sometimes the challenges with school systems or employers who are not really sensitive to the needs of folks with disabilities. And I'm one of those individuals. How you treat the less fortunate in a culture or society determines the future of that culture and society. And so I'm a big advocate to make sure that folks with disabilities have the same rights as anyone else. We named some of our day programs the Dream Centers, because we are all about partnering with our individuals and their parents to make sure that our individuals' dreams come true. Like, for example, we just had a situation where we partnered with another organization that teaches individual with disability how to ski. And so we had one of our individuals with quadriplegic was actually on skis, which is something he never imagined he'd be able to do. So that's really what we're all about. We help people find housing. We help people with employment. We do advocacy, case management, which is basically helping to navigate services in the state of North Carolina. We work with the school systems, making sure that individuals and their parents are getting the rights for a good, complete education. And then we also help with transition out of school. And so there's a lot of different things that we do to help support folks with disabilities. And that's intellectual disabilities, mental health, and substance abuse. Also involved in doing it's called Growing Minds Mentoring Center. That's more on my nonprofit side, which is Nehemiah Project of Love, where we work with young kids, elementary to middle school kids, and really help do some good programming that will help them, because many of their parents are either incarcerated or they have, because of drugs, they're now deceased. So that's something we also partner with to make sure we're making an impact.
So I want to back up. You gave us a lot there to unpack.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you mentioned was the concept of getting people the services they need. And I want to take it one step further back behind that, because I've had some experience with this myself. And one of the things that we've gone through and experienced and chatted with others about is you talk about getting the services you need, but there's a lot of families that don't even know that there are services available.
Correct.
How do you get to the families and say, hey, you know something? You've got this loved one and you're really missing the boat because they could be getting a lot of things that quite frankly, you don't even know about. So how do you get to those folks?
Well, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go through the doctor's offices. We will go through the school system. All children have to go through the school system. So, and we've really put a lot of emphasis in marketing and getting the word out there. In the state of North Carolina, they have what's called the Innovations Waiver, which is a Medicaid waiver for those that are on Medicaid can qualify for that. They also have another waiver, which is 1915, which allows individuals who previously did not get services to get services. And so we're kind of what I call the bridge between the individual and the managed care organization, which helps get them on board. And then we as a provider provide those direct services. So we just, through education, partnering with doctor's offices and school systems and different things where folks with Medicaid would typically go through that entry door, either through school or medical treatment. And then we basically inform them of who we are, what we can do, and then we walk them through the process of getting services.
Now, here in California, and I don't know if this is I believe this is a California issue, but you're the expert. We have something called the regional center.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the gateway of getting services. But the folks there are so overworked that they basically are helping those who reach out to them. But a lot of people don't even know to reach out to them. Is something like the regional center, is that something that's available nationally, or is that just a California thing?
Well, it's similar. Within North Carolina, they call it managed care organization, which is multi-county. I'm not sure the regional is probably a similar model, but and especially with what's going on with the president's bill right now with Medicaid being affected, I think there's a lot of misinformation in regards to the Medicaid people qualifying, who would qualify. And then one of the things that I've tried to encourage my families to recognize is, yes, they are cutting Medicaid, but they're only cutting it for people who shouldn't get it. And so part of the folks, the president and the Congress has been committed to making sure they're protecting Medicaid for those that qualify, which would be the folks who have disabilities and folks who are aged. And so, part of the things that we try to do is we try to educate. Education is so powerful because a lot of your companies are not going to educate families. And so we just try to be that, like I said, that bridge to inform them and then to partner with them to make sure we're getting their children or adults the services they need.
Yeah, that's a key component that we've heard so much. And again, I don't know what, you're probably hearing a more balanced message in Texas. In California, we hear a pretty one-sided message, which is a shame, because the last time I heard, the Medicaid cuts that they're talking about is for individuals who are capable of working, no kids, and work 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Which or to do 20 hours a week of community service, either one. So it doesn't seem like it's that onerous to if you're capable. And I think everybody either should or agrees that those who have need, there should be a safety net for folks. We're not looking to have anybody harmed, but we also, those people that are capable, get off your rear ends and go to work, right? I mean, it's that way the system is there. I mean, you probably run into it where you've got a family that's very, very well qualified, well deserving, and maybe a program is full. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, I mean, the Innovations Waiver, North Carolina Innovations Waiver, is a limited what they call slots availability, which is through the expansion, the Medicaid expansion that occurred over the last couple of years. That's why they brought in the 1915, because you had a lot of people who were eligible for services, like thousands that were eligible but were not receiving services. So the Medicaid expansion, which was primarily for folks with disabilities, now allows them to get a little bit more services than they previously had, because you've got individuals that are getting out of school. Now the families are forced to stay at home with their child because they have a disability where it warrants them to have supervision. So like I said, we've been very creative in helping educate families and getting them on board with services and making sure those things, the dreams that the parents had for their children to be taken care of, is met.
That's a big issue that you're talking about right there, as far as, it's not an individual issue. It's a family issue.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you've got somebody that needs care, that's got some sort of an issue, Well, that means that somebody in the family might have to be driving them or making sure that they get fed and then they're safe and they're not going and wandering into the middle of a street somewhere. We're going to continue our conversation with Paul Peters when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. You can reach me anytime. Off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few. Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Your Credit Matters segment today being brought to you by rsrlinks.com/debt-free, rsrlinks.com/debt-free. Another new service we're rolling out. Hey, you know something? Even if you don't have a house, we've got a loan for you. You're trying to consolidate some debt, get that credit card bills down from that average of 22.84% interest. Take a look, rsrlinks.com/debt-free. Go through and fill out the survey there. You can also do our 30-second loan app, rsrlinks.com/Sora, rsrlinks.com/Sora. And we'll be able to see what kind of debt, what your debt profile looks like. And we'll also look and see a little bit about what offers there might be for unsecured debt. So it's not a credit card, it's not revolving debt, but it can help you pay off your credit cards. And instead of having compound interest, simple interest, and get debt free. That's your Credit Matters segment today, being brought to you by rsrlinks.com/debt-free, rsrlinks.com/debt-free. Continuing our conversation this morning, we're chatting with, holy cow, veteran, author, TV host. I don't know. I guess you must have a long business card. Paul Peters is with us this morning. Let me even thank you for your military service, Paul. That's something that we're very, very appreciative of on Ron Siegel Radio, especially after the events of a week ago. We can all be very, very proud of the men and women of the United States military. So thank you. And, you know, people like me who have an opinion and share it, we couldn't do that if it wasn't for the men and women of our military. So thanks for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we've been chatting a bit about your helping of individuals. And again, it's a passion that my wife and I have as well here on the West Coast, what you're doing there on the East Coast. Just getting out there to help people and talk a little bit about the opportunities. I mean, how does a family survive? You know, if you've got you're a family of someone with special needs and then you can't work, you know, then I mean, does the government pay the caregiver, or how does some of that work?
Yeah, in some situations, the government, because the limited in regards to staffing for an individual, the government will, in certain situations, allow the parent family member to provide the services for those individuals. And that's something that we try to encourage and educate our families, because staffing was very challenging, especially when you were dealing with folks with disabilities. What we've tried to do, for example, we've got a community in near Wilmington, North Carolina, where we have 21 beds. And so for example, we had one of the caregivers needed a break. And so we are providing some respite, which is basically where they can watch her daughter, who's total care, and get the needed break that she deserves, because she's been working with her child for years. And so we really try to be very open to how we can support our families. But typically Medicaid will pay for situations to be able to have a caregiver support that individual.
So tell me a little bit about your books. I mean, I don't think we even talked about that last time you were on, about your books.
Well, years ago, I taught a class at the church I was attending on helping people find their purpose. I became very aware in my own self discovery of what I was called to do. How many people in this world have no clue what they're created for? And when you surround yourself, I mean, look at where you're at right now. Everything you use has a unique purpose. The microphones, the pens, your earbuds, they serve a purpose. And so started asking the question, if the things around us we use are created to serve a purpose, are we not also created to serve a purpose? So I've really spent, my first book was helping people discover and embrace their life purpose, because there's a direct connection when you are doing what you love as a profession and you're making the money that you need. It automatically will bring a sense of fulfillment, a sense of joy, love, because you're serving others. And it's kind of it's a built-in mechanism, I believe, that God puts within us and links us to our purpose, but we need to be able to ask those questions. Too many people choose their vocation based on necessity rather than passion and drive. And the one follows the other. When you follow your dreams, and it may be at a part-time basis, but if you follow your dream, you're going to have more passion to do what you love. And so that was what my first book was about, is helping people find their purpose.
So when I was in school, a couple hundred years ago, turn of the century, not even this century, they used to, I think it was one of the branches of the military recruiters that came in, and they used to do an aptitude test.
Yeah.
To kind of give you an idea of what you're good at and try and marry that with something you liked. They don't do that anymore. So what is your advice to somebody who might feel lost and trying to discover their purpose? How do you even figure it out?
Well, I can give you the obvious, buy my book, because there's a lot of answers in there. But, ask the question.
What's the name of your book?
It's called Discovering and Embracing Your Life Purpose, and you can find it on Amazon. But
Okay.
basically, I just recognize, and a lot of those people are maybe familiar with Rick Warren, A Purpose-Driven Life, or the church that he wrote years ago. And I just was challenged by that, because I said, people need deeper understanding. They need tools, because that which is inside of us needs to be discovered, i.e. discovered your purpose. It's not like we get a letter at the birth of our child saying, okay, this is what your child's going to do. You follow these instructions and you've got a winner on your hand. But, there's certain things within us, our strengths, our gifts, our talents, that we can begin to discover. People around us who sense something that we're good at. There's various ways that people can find their purpose. And then once they find their purpose, dive into it. And it can become a career that can be very successful.
Are there certain, what was the light bulb that went off to help you clarify your purpose?
Well, for me, I tell people, and this is interesting, is when you look in retrospect of the choices that you, Ron, made and where it led you where you are today, which is, being a radio personality. So often the choices we make, and we're not even really aware of it, but if we stop, kind of look back and say, I did this, I did this, I did this, which ultimately is the future of where you're going. So for me, I grew up in a dysfunctional home, so I'm all about supporting at-risk kids, domestic violence victims. Some of those things that happen to us, and we begin to observe how they created the uniqueness of who we are and what we're passionate about. Same thing with working with seniors, and because I used to volunteer at a nursing home, veterans, that's all part of my nonprofit. Disabilities is I started working in the field, volunteering and helping at a mental health center with folks with mental health. And here I am, I started a company years later. So all of those choices, as we begin to knit them together like a puzzle, it begins to formulate the picture of what we're to do in our life and how we're supposed to serve others.
How do you stay focused when you've got so much going on? How do you stay focused and not let distractions and other things get in the way?
Well, part of it is, there's a book that I would highly recommend, Who Not How. Focus on what you're good at, and then basically hand off something that you're not necessarily good at to somebody else. It could be an assistant, it could be a staff, it could be a friend. You delegate that thing that you're not really most passionate about or gifted at. There's the term zone of genius or your zone of competent. A lot of times we spend most of our times in the things we don't really love to do, but we have to do them. And I try to focus my energies in my zone of excellence and my zone of genius.
I have a friend that's also a former military, and he used to say, hire your weaknesses. And he also, kind of the same thought process was, if you don't like it, hire someone else to do it, because they'll probably be better at it than you're going to be at it.
Correct.
What are some of the misconceptions people have about the businesses you're in?
Well, it is stressful, but I think it's most rewarding. It's kind of, how do I put it to say? So when you have the opportunity to work with somebody that is obviously has some needs, it's going to test your level of compassion, your level of service, and ultimately your level of love. So I tell people working with folks with disability is the greatest opportunity because one, you see a sense of appreciation for things that they get to do every day that we take for granted. I've got individuals that can't walk, but are absolutely most joyful because they're surrounded people that care about them and love them. So it gives me a sense of appreciation. So often, people say, you must be so patient. You work with folks with disability. I said, well, maybe, yeah, I guess, but I'm the most blessed person to be able to have the opportunity to serve. To see somebody live out their dreams and know that you are part of that is so fulfilling.
How do you separate the fact that you just can't be everything to everybody and leave maybe your work mission to go home to your life and your family mission?
Well, it's interesting, the one word that 2-year-olds mastered, which is the word no. And I think for somebody like myself who's kind of grew up being a people pleaser, I've got to relearn that word no and say, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. And that's a challenge for me because I want to be, make sure that I'm making an impact. And there's so many ways to do that, but there's certain things that I just can't do. And a lot of times I'll end up delegating those or tabling them until I do have the time.
So you said before we went on air, you had mentioned that you were in Southern California recently for a speaking engagement. How does somebody reach you if they want to get you to come and talk?
Well, they can reach me on paulpeters.online and they can reach me that way. But yeah, I had an opportunity to a keynote with Jack Canfield in LA recently.
Well, I'm glad you did the keynote. I don't know that in LA is a great. I don't even like LA because I live about 20 miles from there and my car sputters at the county line. But paulpeters.online, and I assume that there's links to get your book and things like that on there as well.
There are.
Beautiful. Appreciate you coming on and look forward to continuing our conversation down the road.
Thanks, Ron.
And as always, I ask, set that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean for engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990. 800-306-1990 or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.